We crossed the halfway point of the 2020B season, and we head to wine country in Sonoma, California. As round 6 of the 2020B Simracer Coin NASA RallyCross Challenge takes us to this track, it's a lot like everyone else, except for 3 drivers are drunk on wine. Probably not. Who knows? That was a bad joke. As hello everyone, like I mentioned, in Sonoma, California, at the Sonoma Raceway for round 6 of this season, Josh Mertz, supposed to be Dylan Baadte. We haven't really figured out where he is. Special guest Philip Kraus and Victor Valley in the production truck for the Automotive Sports Network tonight. As this broadcast and the series brought to you by Simracer Coin, cryptocurrency that was designed by Simracers for use by Simracers. Interesting. Simracercoin.org for all that information. As Mr. Philip Kraus, we're in qualifying here, and you had a interesting race last week, and you retired as a result. What's going on?
I don't know what you're talking about. I had a completely normal race last time out. Absolutely no incidents whatsoever in the LCQ. It was a completely clean race, and just kind of announced my retirement, and here we are in the booth.
As it is the MRT retirement home in the commentary box here at the Automotive Sports Network, as obviously now both of the MRT drivers decided to be Jeff Gordon. As we're running through qualifying at the moment, we're taking a look right now at Chad Mikas. He missed last week's race in Sparks, Nevada, in car number 9. He is currently in the 5th position. Format for today's race, it looks as though I think we've got 21 cars getting ready to take part in today's race. So we will have 6 laps, Joker lap once. The top 2 will transfer through to the final automatically. The winner gets 2 points. Second place gets 1 bonus point. The others will move to the LCQs. So with this amount of cars, there should be 2 LCQ races and hopefully no intentional wrecks. Hint, hint. 5 laps, the winner will transfer, and the others are seeded based on the finishing order. So the C main is 11th down the order for the odd positions. The B main is 12th down the order for the even positions. Finals 10 laps, 10 cars. And if this track gives us any indication, I think both of us have actually won here, Phil. What makes this track so hard?
It's mostly the line through turns 1, 2, and 3. It's really difficult to get the line right. You can watch Jake right here. I think he's done with his quali laps, but you really have to hug that inside line. The grass gives a lot more grip than the dirt does, and it's crucial that you hug that line, because if you don't, you're losing a ton of time hand over fist. Yeah, you're just going to run right off the track.
And what I've noticed is this track, it's really deceiving into turn 1. Now turn 1 past the grid, because you can dive it into that corner and hope the cushion's going to keep you at a stick, but it's not faster. What is faster? Well, what has been fast? Jake Robertson, 37.830, Sindre Silva, 38.133, and Alexei Heikkinen, 38.309. Finally, and this is not a bash to our defending champion, Matt Hartley, up in the top 5, currently in 4th with a 38.376. He had that huge battle with Magnus Okenhaug to end that championship last season. Speaking of Okenhaug, I don't believe he has ran a lap, as we focus on Alexei Heikkinen. Through turn 1, well, this track's confusing because the grid is a certain corner, and then the finish is on a completely different side of the track. And here is Magnus. I believe he is just now finishing his laps. But it doesn't look like that he has a time posted, so we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for Magnus. He was really strong in practice. He was about 3rd quick or so, and obviously qualifying last isn't what you want, because you'll be starting in the back for your heat. You won't get the heat you want, and it's just going to be a difficult heat for you, really, because you got to work through your way through all the traffic and try to find yourself in a transfer spot.
As Robertson, Heikkinen, Silva, Hartley, Vonnen, Ray Kingsbury, Marwan Moftah, Cohen-Attard, McDonald, Dipple, Bodie Cryer, Savian Ragster, Matt Kingsbury, Josh Klog, Mikas, Brokaw, Wetz, Rosales, Seymour, Feldman, and Okenhaug. So a very steady field that we've had throughout this season. We had a couple of, I believe, one-offs last week, and a couple of cars that have returned back to the proper RallyCross tracks, as pole position for heat number 1 goes to Jake Robertson in the 22. The second position in this heat race will be Johan Vannanen, Daniel McDonald, Matt Kingsbury, Chris Wetz, and then Magnus Okenhaug. As I don't believe that anyone has gridded up yet. There we go. As I believe Chris Wetz is the first car to grid up. Predictions for this heat race. You think Jake Robertson's going to run away with it?
I mean, it's Jake Robertson. I think he's going to run away with it. He's done it all season. He's just been kind of unfortunate in the finals and with some penalties he's got throughout the season. But every week, he's the benchmark you have to base yourself on. If you're not close to Jake, you're probably not close to the front.
As Sindre Silva has a 22-point lead over his teammate Jake Robertson, but if you remove the 15 penalty points that the British driver has, it would be much closer. Magnus Okenhaug 24 points back from the Norwegian. So we're going to have 5 races left starting this one, and it's certainly going to be an interesting show. As we get ready for heat number 1 here in Sonoma, Robertson, Vannanen, McDonald, Kingsbury, Wetz, and Okenhaug for 6 laps. Green flag. Off the line, 3 wide, Robertson, Vannanen, and McDonald. Down into turn number 1, Robertson and McDonald, they're going to pinch the 7, and McDonald's going to turn the 22. He gets hit by Okenhaug, his teammate, and Vannanen involved as well.
That's a really messy start there. I'm expecting some reviews post-race from the stewards. I'm not sure if anyone's going to get a penalty from that. That's kind of just what happens with the start here. It's really tight into turn 1, and the officials forgot to lay the dirt down before qualifying, so everyone's on a fresh track, no grip.
Off the road goes Matt Kingsbury there in the back of the shot. We're focused on the race leader, Jake Robertson. Remember how he talked about Magnus didn't qualify? Well, we really don't have to worry about that right now. Up the hill, through the carousel, back onto the road course, on board the 22 of Robertson here, into the penultimate corner, typically turn 1 on the grid. Let's see who will joker. Robertson does in the 22.
Okenhaug has to take advantage of this. He's got clean track ahead of him now, about a 2-second buffer to Robertson. He needs to put in the good laps so he can. That Subaru is really quick on the fresh track compared to the Beetle. He needs to take advantage of this and try to get a heat win.
And Commentators curse, we talk about him, he drives it off the road in the 26. I think he's more focused on Matt Kingsbury in the 21. And remember, Okenhaug, very close, arguably, one of the fastest cars last week, and crashed on the opening lap and gave way to Sindre Silva. And this is what Robertson needs in order to potentially take the fight to his teammate. He just needs to keep doing him and not getting involved in accidents. But we'll take a look. Magnus jokers and does not get anywhere close to Robertson.
Yeah, I think Okenhaug just needs to settle for second now. He's about a second and a half behind Robertson. There's no point in trying to push too hard. Right as I say that, he runs wide and almost off the track again. But he just needs to consolidate second, get that transfer spot, and get that 1 bonus point.
Now, I have to say it, because if I remember correctly, like I said in the open, it's very deceiving, at least to me, running this car, because you think you have grip, and we saw Magnus run it wide there. That corner at the top of the carousel in turn 1 are 2 corners that are very hard, because you think you can run it so hard and it'll stick, and then it doesn't. I don't know if that happened to you.
Oh, it definitely happened to me all the time. Until last season, I was doing that almost every lap I ran. Last season, I kind of figured out how to get in the corner a bit more calmly, but it didn't really pay off in the final. Had a few incidents and finished a bit down the order, but it looks like the fresh track that we laid down before this heat's really affecting most of the grid, except for Jake Robertson. He's just gone. Absolute alien, but...
I'm going to say what else is new there. As we crossed halfway in the heat race, the last lap, Robertson's going to take 2 laps to go. His gap, according to last lap, was 1.8 seconds. And as he flies over the jump in car number 22, we will see that time more than likely grow. And according to timing on this last lap, 3.5 seconds from him to Magnus Okenhaug.
He can just cruise at this point. Even if he did fly off the track once, I think he'd still have this heat win. I will say there's a close battle between Chris Wetz and Daniel McDonald for the final place in the heat. They're just kind of battling over the scraps after that big turn 1 crash, but it's interesting to see who's got the pace. Dan was pretty quick in practice, but obviously he didn't have the start he wanted in the heat.
I'm just focused on Magnus here because he's driving very, very messy from the Norwegian. This isn't like him. He's been very scrappy over the jump. Ran it wide a couple of times. Keeps running it wide into turn 1. I'm thinking, at least because when I drove it was the opposite. I was better on a fresh track. Maybe Magnus is so used to that gripped up track. That's why he's expecting that grip and it's not there.
Oh yeah, definitely. The track in practice, it was completely worn down. It was basically like driving on a circuit, like you've alluded to so many times in broadcast past. But obviously, with them laying down the dirt right before the first heat, you didn't get any extra laps in qualifying to like tune yourself in, have the line perfect for turn 1, and he's kind of paid the price. He's just missed the apex so many times. As Robertson wins heat 1 ahead of Okenhug, Kingsbury finishes 3rd.
Johans Vanen finishes in 4th. You decided to take my job there for a sec. Wets pips McDonald for 5th. Unfortunately, though, there's no prize for making it in 5th instead of 6th. So I think really that this track, this race, and granted we say this before, it's kind of dictated by turn 1. And actually, now that I think about it, I just got completely distracted. I should have known since I organized everything, but I had no idea that Vanen and Heikkinen were teammates until I saw the same exact paint scheme. I learn something new every day, and I run this show. Look at that.
Yeah, I think this is the first time they've ran a race together this season. They've both kind of sporadically shown up. I think Heikkinen showed up at Lucas Oil. I don't remember where Vanen showed up. It might have been really early in the season.
It was round 1 in Norway, and then Heikkinen round 4 in Indianapolis. So we get ready for heat number 2 here in Sonoma. Alexi Heikkinen, Ray Kingsbury, John Dipple, Josh Klog, Adam Rosales, 6 laps. Green flag in Sonoma. Kingsbury misses the start into turn 1. It's Dipple with Heikkinen side by side, and the British driver, Scotsman rather, will lead us through turn 1. Heikkinen thought about it to the inside, thought better of it. Kingsbury getting close in the 25. Over the jump for the first time. It's going to be Dipple, Heikkinen, Kingsbury, Klog, and Rosales as we head down to turn number 1.
That's the start Dipple really needed. Heikkinen's been quicker than him throughout practice, and what he needs to be hoping for right now is as he runs wide through the first corner, he really needs to hope that Kingsbury can put the pressure on Heikkinen and try to force him into a few mistakes so he can build a lead and hopefully cruise to a heat win.
He's struggling just like his teammate is on the fresh track, running it wide in turn 1. Dipple not having the greatest of times in car number 34. Remember, running a part-time schedule for the LRL squad this season, along with Daniel McDonald. Is Daniel McDonald returning to university after this race, so I don't think we'll be able to see the 95 anytime soon, as Dipple will lead us at the end of the first lap. So it's a cluster behind him for second with Heikkinen, Kingsbury, Klog, and Rosales, but I think that Joker opportunity really helped Dipple on the first lap.
I will say it's kind of interesting that Dipple jokered on the first lap, especially when throughout the sessions, I'd say Heikkinen's proved he has the pace over him. Ideally, you want to try to hold up Heikkinen. You don't want to give him a chance to get a clean track like he has right now and set those fast lap times, as he is just inch perfect through that corner right there. I feel like Dipple's cost himself the win here.
The term of aliens that you'll hear throughout the show, of course, usually goes for the Europeans that are stupidly fast compared to the rest of the field. I'm going to finish that point in a second. Klog Jokers ahead of Heikkinen. This might actually work in Dipple's favor, as Klog in the 99 a little bit slower there, side by side through the carousel. On board the 99 of Klog, and it looks like Heikkinen clears him through the carousel.
I don't think Heikkinen lost much time there. He did what he had to do. Luckily for him, Klog left the door open, kind of missed his apex on turn 1, and just let Heikkinen hug that inside line, get by him, and lose minimal time.
So the joke that goes on through iRacing is that the Scandinavian drivers, Finnish drivers, Swedish drivers, Norwegians, they're aliens. Super fast, not from this planet. And I think we can tell, obviously, that Heikkinen knows what he's doing. Last lap for Dipple, 41.667. Last lap for Heikkinen, 41.529. But if we take a look at that line through turn 1, he has gained a little bit of time.
Yeah, Heikkinen's just so consistent through turn 1 and 2. Like, you can tell he's put a lot of laps on this track and knows what he has to do to hit that apex consistently, lap after lap, and it's really paying dividends for him right now.
As 1.9 seconds, the gap at the line the last time around. I can't remember the Joker Delta from when I drove, but I certainly think that he is within it as we go over the jump once again to take 2 laps to go. Heikkinen trying to track down Dipple. What's interesting, these guys, it really doesn't matter for the heat race win or points-wise because they're both part-time.
Yeah, but you want that momentum of a heat win, and I will say Heikkinen just went 7/10 quicker than Dipple that last lap. He's on a charge. He's on a mission. He wants this heat win.
And the bug grips up well on a worn track. The Subaru, especially from being out of the car for a season or half a season so far, I can tell why I might have been a little slower. The Subaru really wishy-washy under acceleration and on a weight transfer. Heikkinen easily takes the lead over Dipple.
Oh, we got a crash in the back. Oh, never mind. I saw Kingsbury getting a little bit skittish over the jump, and I thought he had contact with Clog, but he just had a bad landing off the jump.
Just get your eyes checked, old man. As Alexi Heikkinen leads us ahead of John Dipple, Ray Kingsbury, Josh Clog, Adam Rosales. That's our running order through Heat 2. If you're just joining us here on the Auto Sports Network, it's Josh Mertz and Philip Kraus in the commentary box today. We're supposed to have Dylan Baadte. I think he got lost on the journey up here. Hopefully he will join us soon. And Victor Valley down in the production truck as Alexi Heikkinen over the jump. And he will win Heat 2 in Sonoma ahead of Dipple. Into the LCQ will go Kingsbury, Clog, and Rosales. It's almost becoming a battle for second in points, unless something goes wrong with Silva. But we get ready for Heat 3, and our points leader, red plate holder Sindre Silva, Marwan Moftah, Bodie Cryer, Chad Mikas, and Travis Seymour. So another 5 cars getting ready to go. Beautiful camera work from the ASN crew down on the grid as we take a look at Cryer's Subaru. Now we take a look at Marwan Moftah as Chad Mikas there in the back. We also look at Travis Seymour, but here's our points leader. Sindre Silva in car number 63. Another 6-lap race. And can the Norwegian continue his momentum? Looks like Moftah jumps the start, so does Seymour. Green flag. Off the line. Cryer on the outside into turn 1. Runs it very deep. Does not challenge the 63 of Silva. And Moftah in second. Over the jump, Silva ahead of Moftah, Cryer, Mikas, and Seymour as we begin the first lap.
That's exactly what Silva wanted on that start there. No challenge in the turn 1, no potential contact, and a clean track ahead of him. He knows, at least if this whole season's been anything to go by, that he has the pace over these guys, and he wants this clean track to just quickly build a gap, set the pace, and honestly, just run away with it like he has been for the whole season.
As he is on a run, if we take a look at our results here, he has finished on the podium every single race. I know another guy that finished on the podium every single race and went on to dominate a season, but I won't inflate your ego too much. Sindre Silva jokers on the first lap, his first opportunity. He holds the lead ahead of Bodie Cryer on the 92, Marwan Moftah on the 191, and Travis Seymour there. Got black flagged, of course, for jumping the start, but NASA regulations state if you stop and you don't give up time, you will get your black flag cleared, so it's like nothing happened. And now we'll have to see if Moftah, who has won here at Sonoma in the Simracer Coin NASA RallyCross Challenge, can put up a fight to Silva.
I have to say, something I've noticed through these first 2 heats and this heat, it seems like the Subarus are really struggling to hold that inside line through turn 1. I saw it just there on that lap. Moftah and Cryer both ran really wide through turn 1. I don't know if it's something setup related, like if they set up too much for a gripped up track or what, but they're losing so much time in turn 1 where that's a corner you usually expect the Subaru to be quite strong.
If I remember correctly, you have to basically turn to hit that bollard on the inside of the corner and the sleeping policeman on the curb. And I don't think they're turning in, but it might just not handle. And that's what I was trying to describe, but I don't think I described it very well. But it's crucial to get the car to turn, obviously, but the Subarus are struggling. Side by side, the teammates, Moftah gets passed by Mikas in car number 9.
Those are some beautiful cars. The Spark VR guys. I know that isn't the Spark VR. Oh, they crashed.
Commentary
Oh my
curse.
God.
Commentators curse. And Mikas crashes in car number 9.
I've been in the booth for like half an hour and I've already laid down 2 commentators' curses. I'm sorry, guys.
We talk about Bodie Cryer in the transfer spot in the 92 ahead of Marwan Moftah, and they both have jokered. I think that start from the 92 really helped him, obviously, nearly beat Silva into turn number 1.
Yeah, Cryer's only been with us for 2 races. This is his 3rd race now, but he showed pretty impressive pace throughout all 3 of his races. He had a bit of bad luck at Indianapolis, but overall he's had some really solid pace, and I'm honestly not surprised to see him in a transfer spot here. But Marwan Mafta, you know he's quick. He's a winner in this series. He's going to lay the pressure down these last 2 laps here.
As Marwan Mafta joined only, I want to say, 2 other drivers with winning multiple races on debut. He won in Daytona and in Phoenix to open up the debut on iRacing for the NASA RallyCross Challenge. We're on board Cryer in the 92. We're coming to the white flag for Silva. Haven't spoke about him at all because he's been out and away from the rest of the field. And this is going to be interesting for this transfer because Marwan has not had the best of luck in this open setup era. And I don't know if that's just his driving style or if he's not gelling with the team. I wouldn't be able to tell you.
It's hard to tell, really. I'd say our first season on iRacing was one of the less competitive ones because obviously everyone was new to the game, so he had an advantage when we started up. And now, in this season, there's a lot more experienced drivers who have a lot of time on these rallycross tracks. But I thought Cryer was cracking under the pressure on that last lap there, but it looks like he's going to be able to hold on to this transfer spot so far.
As Sindre Silva through the penultimate corner, we keep an eye on the transfer spot. But Silva, through the final corner, negates any advantage that his teammate would have gained. He wins Heat 3 in Sonoma, and Baadte Cryer transfers to the main event in car number 92. What a run for him. Mafta, Seymour, and Mikas to the LCQ in Heat 3. As I'm looking at the stat book while we have a moment, if you'd like to know something hilarious, Jake Robertson is in a 3-way tie for 6th on the wins list already, with 7 tied with Dylan Smith and Connor Parisi. I guess it just shows the level of dominance that myself, you, Wetz, Erdman, we all had throughout those NASCAR 2003 days. And let me tell you, I like the dominance of the Apex cars, but yet I still like the competition.
I feel you there as we grid up for heat number 4 here.
Points leader, Matt Hartley. Commentators, Ragster, Feldman, Brokaw, green flag. Hartley, great start into turn 1, ahead of Attard, ahead of his teammate, as they came together, I believe, last week in Nevada. Brokaw and Ragster getting together, and Feldman in the 84. Over the jump for the first time, defending champion Hartley will lead, I want to say for the first time in quite some time, as we enter turn 1.
Yeah, Hartley's definitely going to want to be building some momentum off this round. He's had a really difficult... Oh my god! Safi and Ragster sending into this round, and he's barrel rolling! Oh my god. That's a big crash.
As Ragster, I'm taking a look on my monitor, had it slid, he would have been fine, but he hit the sleeping policeman, and now it's going to put Brokaw in the 2nd spot in the 903. So the one Ford that has ran the most of this season is in a transfer spot.
Yeah, Brokaw's really got to try to capitalize on this. He's got a huge gap to Cohen, Feldman, and Ragster behind after that incident. I don't think he's made a final this season. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the best chance he's going to have all season.
I don't believe he has 15th, 22nd, 11th, 18th, and 12th. Took me a second to look through those results, but the American for the DJRX team has not made a final. Digital Global Racing running 2 squads over the 2 manufacturers. They have Brokaw in the Ford, and then they have Feldman and Clog in the Subarus. And what's interesting, and I know we've joked about this off air, Ford came within 1 point of winning the Manufacturers Championship last season. Apex leaves them to Volkswagen, and they've got 1 car. But Ford has not had the best of luck at all in NASA Rallycross.
Yeah, Ford's had a rough go at it in NASA Rallycross. I don't think they've won a manufacturer's title in their time here, but they came so close last season with the Apex guys carrying their effort, and then this season, 1 car. It's rough for them because they were so close, and you thought they could have had a chance, but this season it's kind of crushed because the Apex guys went to Volkswagen. Now Volkswagen's really competitive this season. They're dominating the manufacturers as Apex has won every race this season.
Mitsubishi, Subaru, Citroen, Volkswagen, but no Ford. As Hartley will take cross flags in car number 1, our defending champion, almost having a season like I did in 2014A, and having a season like you did, aside from the win, last season. Both struggled in car number 1, and Hartley's doing the same. But I personally believe he still has the pace. He wouldn't have that number for nothing. But it's the fact of the Apex cars.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Apex cars have been on a different level this season compared to last. Like they were. Jake Robertson was super quick last season. He won 3 races in a row, but he didn't really have the consistency. But that team as a whole this season, they've won 5 out of 5 races. They have that consistency now, and it's half the races. It's a battle over just who can finish 3rd.
I was mentioning in the open, you would imagine that it wouldn't be too fun watching the same 2 teammates. You think of Mercedes with Bottas and Hamilton, but when you ignore that they're winning everything and you just focus on the battle, I think it's a very good race.
I'd have to agree with you. The racing's,
my opinion.
The racing's been pretty good. They had a really solid battle at Lucas Oil a few weeks back. Like that was amazing to watch, that battle for the win. Obviously, there was a bit of unfortunate contact with Okenhog for the lead on, I believe, lap 6 of that race, but the battle between the teammates to decide the winner of that race afterwards was really fun to watch. As I was just kind of sitting behind him in 3rd in that race.
As Hartley takes the white flag in car number 1, he survived the chaos of the first corner. Tim Brokaw benefited with it as Sabian Ragster really took the Red Bull sponsorship to new heights. He decided to crash into the sleeping policeman and roll it onto Commentators. Final corner for Matt Hartley, our defending champion of the Simracer Coin NASA RallyCross Challenge. I think this is his first heat win of 2020B, and Tim Brokaw will make his first final in the series in the 903.
I have to correct you there. Hartley actually has won a heat this season. He won Heat 2 at Daytona Long.
And I'm glad I'm not the only one that has our notes pulled up as we do this. As we get ready for the C-Main. So it will split into 2 consolation races. C-Main will be 6 cars. Matt Kingsbury, Marwan Moftah, Johan Vanen, Travis Seymour, Chris Wetz, Chad Mikas. This is going to be a hard race to pick because we know Matt Kingsbury's fast. We know Marwan's fast. Obviously, Johan's fast. Not discrediting Seymour, Wetz, or Mikas, but they're going to be a little bit further back on the grid.
Yeah, you'd like to see more than one of these guys make the final because they're all quick and they could get a good result, but
it is not the case in the NASA RallyCross Challenge. C-Main time in Sonoma. 5 laps, green flag. Moftah doesn't get a good start. Seymour does. He's got nowhere to go. Into turn 1. Kingsbury battling with Vanen. It looks like Moftah got hit there in the back of the shot, and Vanen tries to take the lead. Kingsbury to the inside. The Connecticut native tries to take the fight. Couldn't get the car to rotate and grip in the corner. Moftah in 3rd, Seymour 4th, Wetz 5th, and Mikas in 6th.
I was going to say off the start there, Moftah had a bit of contact in the first corner, and it allowed Kingsbury and Vanen to pull away a bit, but after that little slide off the jump for Kingsbury, Moftah's right back on him. Anyone can win this LCQ.
As Kingsbury ahead of Vanen ahead of Kingsbury ahead of Moftah. Let's see who jokers on the first lap of the race. And what's interesting here, Moftah has closed up the gap that he had. He's going to joker behind Vanen. So now, honestly, if I'm Kingsbury, this is a good idea because you can see the cars ahead of you and you can close that gap up.
Yeah, you just have to be worried about Seymour behind. If he jokers next lap, he could potentially merge out right next to you, and that could completely ruin your strategy. You just have to be mindful of the delta to the car behind. Make sure it's a sustainable strategy to keep running normal laps and not take your joker.
As Vanen at the line, granted it was timing as of the last loop, 0.8 of a second ahead of Moftah. We'll see when they rotate around if the delta will be increased. I think Kingsbury lost a little bit of time there, but it's so hard to tell. Take a look as we take crossed flags in the LCQ. The gap is 1 second to Moftaw. The gap is 2.8 back to Kingsbury. And it looks like Wetz in the 71 has crashed because he has disconnected from the server. So the man from Texas, and I want to say third all time on the wins list in the NASA Rallycross Challenge, out in Sonoma.
Yeah, Vonnen and Moftaw are definitely trying to make this a two-horse race. Vonnen last lap's at a 40.717 with Marwan Moftaw on a 40.885. Meanwhile, Kingsbury, he only managed a 41.18. He needs to pick up that pace if he wants to challenge these two.
There's 2 laps to go for Johan Vonnen ahead of Marwan Moftaw. The gap is 0.7 of a second. 3.6 back to Kingsbury from Vonnen. I think Matt is not going to make this final here in Sonoma. The LLM cars, really, they switched to Subaru. And yes, I'm going to roast both of them here publicly. Ray Kingsbury claims that the Subaru is great, but the LLM cars, I don't think they have the pace this season.
I feel like they have the pace this season, but they've been so inconsistent throughout the season. It's hard for them to really capitalize on their pace when, I don't know, it feels like they're more mistake-prone than they were last season as we start the final lap here. Moftaw was 1.5 tenths quicker than Vonnen again on that lap. I don't think it'll be enough here, but watch out for him here in these final few corners.
6 tenths of a second from Johan Vonnen to Marwan Moftaw. The Egyptian is slowly gaining this time back, runs it deep back onto the road course, and he's got 2 corners to make something happen. Penultimate corner on board Johan Vonnen. Final corner, only the winner will transfer through to the final. Running it wide is Vonnen. Moftaw tried to get the bite off the curb, but he will not get there, and Johan Vonnen will transfer out of the C main ahead of Marwan Moftaw, who finishes 11th. Kingsbury 13th. 15th is Seymour. Micus comes home in the 17th spot, and Wetz in 19th. What a race! And we have 2 events left.
That really heated up in the final few corners there. I didn't expect Moftaw to gain that much time through those final few corners, but it felt like Vonnen might have slowed down a little bit to try to just protect his lead, and it allowed Moftaw to get right on his rear bumper. And honestly, if I was Vonnen, I wouldn't have done that, because you have to think, am I going to get hit? Is he going to try a desperation move?
I'm going to be really honest. I was completely zoned out for that, and I do apologize. I wouldn't imagine that. I mean, if I was in that position, you got 1 corner left, I've done it. You have to make something move. You have to make something happen and dive to the inside.
Especially when you have the pace that Moftaw showed in the heat. I mean, not in the heat. He made a few mistakes in the heat, but in practice and qualifying, he showed that pace, and it's a shame for him to not make a final.
7 cars in the B main. Ray Kingsbury, Cohen Attard, Josh Klog, Savian Ragster, Adam Rosales, Diane Feldman, Daniel McDonald. Like we've mentioned, thank you for joining us so far on the Automotive Sports Network. Hopefully Savian Ragster does not become a trackside ornament. Green flag in the B main. Turn 1, Kingsbury hits the wall. The 25 is over as Attard turned in the 3 as well. This puts Savian Ragster in the lead right after I say he's going to be a trackside ornament. Josh Klog in second, McDonald third, Rosales in fourth, fifth Attard, sixth Feldman, seventh Kingsbury. And he does not become a trackside ornament in turn 1. What a race so far.
You know how I was mentioning that inconsistency from the LLM cars this season when they switched to Subaru? That just showed more of it right there. Kingsbury honestly just drove into the wall there. That was a completely unforced error from him, especially when you're starting on pole and you have the preferred line through the first corner.
I think Ragster got a slowdown, not to cut you off, because McDonald has taken the spot, and Ragster falls from first to fourth. I think he got a slowdown over the carousel. He looked like he was wiggling, trying to stay on the track. This puts McDonald in the lead. Jokering is Rosales, does not come out ahead. Jokering was Feldman, it looked like. No, I stand corrected there. I think it was only Rosales. It's hard to keep track. Contact between Attard and Rosales as McDonald battling with Klog, and Klog takes the lead.
Even with that big turn 1 crash, the top 4, oh my god.
As McDonald tries, Attard through into McDonald there in the 95. Attard is furious, and he takes out the 95 of McDonald and Ragster in the 91, and I think the motorless car's not having the best of days. And of course, like I mentioned last week with your crash, we don't make calls up here, but Cohen Attard, I'll hold my tongue.
Stewards are gonna have fun with that.
Sabian Ragster on his side, turtled, as we would say in the NASCAR 2003 days. I know we're not focused on that. I'm looking at him, though. He gassed the car to try and get it off of the side. He did, and he did like a 1080 spin, so Tony Hawk would be jealous. But Ragster, I hate to make a pun on his name, but he went from riches to rags in literally one lap. Meanwhile, Josh Clogg is leading the LCQ, B-Main, Constellation, whatever term. I want to tell you that this means if he can hold this off, the Digital Global Racing team will have 2 cars in the final. I think that's the first time that's going to happen for them.
I'm almost positive you're correct. In the races I've ran this season, I've only seen 1 at best. I don't know what the story was at Hell, the season opener, but definitely in my time racing, this will be the first time we've had 2 DGR cars in the final, which is really nice to see for them because they've put a lot of time into the series, and they've been consistently improving week in, week out.
As Brokaw and Feldman to confirm what you were mentioning, 15th and 20th in Norway. White flag for Josh Clogg in car number 99, ahead of Adam Rosales. Rosales made that final last week in Wild West. And this is one of my favorite things about NASA Rallycross. No, I don't like massive turn 1 crashes. I don't like it when people intentionally wreck each other. I'd be looking at you if you were right next to me. But what I do like is the underdogs, the lower teams. And I think it's in any form of racing when you see them sneak away ahead of the top teams.
And we had one of those just a few weeks ago in F1 when Pierre Gasly won the Italian Grand Prix after a really hectic race, as Josh Clogg rounds the final corner in the Joker to win the LCQ and transfer to the final.
He's our 10th seed here in Sonoma, and just like that, we are already at the final. 12th place for Adam Rosales, 14th for McDonald, 16th will be Ray Kingsbury, so he salvages 1 point after yeeting himself in turn 1. I normally wouldn't say that on a broadcast, but because it's Ray, I would have to say that. Cohen Attard tentatively in 18th, 20th for Feldman, 21st for Sabian Ragster. Like I said, unofficial, as we don't make calls from the commentary box, but of course I think there's going to be some words to be had after the event.
You've got to say that's a story of what ifs for Daniel McDonald and Ray Kingsbury. Obviously, Kingsbury, he hit the wall off the start. That's his own mistake, but McDonald, he just got caught up in someone else's... Well, I don't really want to say it on broadcast, but he kind of just got caught up on someone else's anger, and it ruined his chance of making the final, and I feel really bad for him.
As Victor Valley, I will hand it off to you throughout this warm-up.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. I mean, this has been quite the race. Phil, obviously, you've been here for all of it while I've been back handling camera duties here. So, from a racer's perspective, what do you expect going into the final here after you've seen all of this chaos throughout the heats, throughout the LCQs? So do you expect a really crazy final, or do you think at that point everybody in the final is going to say, okay, we've made it through the crazy stuff, let's just make it through turn 1 cleanly?
I definitely don't think it's you make it through turn 1 cleanly in the final, because we've seen throughout this season, really, the final, there's been some really messy starts. Atlanta Short comes to mind. That was a pretty clean event up until the final, where some people just kind of sent it into the first corner thinking, I can gain these positions, I can get a lot of positions in the first corner, potentially put myself in a position to win the race. And I gotta say, from a driver's point of view, well, you might think that at the time, it's completely untrue. Like, sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet. Say if you're grid 10th, you have to accept that, be careful in the turn 1, and try to pick off the competition 1 car at a time and methodically work your way through the field, because if you hit anybody in turn 1 and cause an incident, there's probably a penalty coming your way, and you're going to do yourself more harm than good.
That's exactly right. And another thing to look at, of course, is the smaller teams. I know we saw already the 99 and 34, their teammates, they made it through. They made it into the final. But some of the more experienced drivers, and the drivers that we see almost every other week making it in, they didn't make it in. So could their inexperience possibly play a factor in this final?
I think you'd have to lean on the side of yes, it could cause something in the final, but I think everyone in this final is an experienced rallycross driver, and they know the do's and don'ts of turn 1 and how to get around this track pretty well. So honestly, I think this will just be like any other final for the most part.
And finally, I mean, and our good talking point here is that championship battle right now. We're watching Sandro Silva and Jake Robertson navigate the Sonoma Raceway here. Actually, Robertson pulls off. What, if you are Jake, what is your strategy here? Is it just to go out and beat Silva straight up, or is it just to try to stay near him at this point and just try to maintain where you're at in points and possibly later on in the year then start going for it? Or is there another strategy that I just don't see right now?
I feel like this is coming from me. I'm more of an aggressive driver, but I feel like when you're over a full race behind the person you're fighting for a championship, you can't just settle to be behind them. You have to beat them the rest of the season, especially when your team's been on the podium almost every race this season. Like, settling for second, especially if your teammate's finishing third or winning, it's not going to cut it when the season comes to an end. You have to beat him, and you have to beat him convincingly.
And continuing on about that battle, if you're Silva, do you start going on the defensive, or are you still back on the offensive, trying to gain even more points going into next week and the week after that?
I'd say it really depends on your confidence on the track. Like, if you aren't feeling 100% confident with the track and you know you have that points lead, you want to just consolidate the best result you can. But if you're feeling it one with your car and the track, obviously you want to try and extend it, but you wouldn't put any unnecessary risk that maybe a Robertson would, since he's obviously the one chasing and he's a full race behind.
Yeah, and another point to bring up here for these championship contenders is, I know I mentioned it earlier with the Dipple and Clog, but Heikkinen and Vanen are also in the final here, and they haven't ran the full season either. So do you think one of those guys could play a spoiler here and possibly take the win away from Robertson or Silva?
Definitely. They've shown their pace throughout their races they've done here, however sporadic they've been. Heikkinen, I believe, finished 4th at Lucas Oil, and he's currently 2nd in this warm-up session with Vanen in 4th. I think they could bring a fight to the Apex guys, as if I look at the live timing, if it wants to work for me... apologies, it isn't working for me to see the warm-up times, but
warm-up times right now. Oh, I was gonna get to it, but it actually just refreshed. I believe is 2/10 back was Heikkinen off of Robertson there, and I think it was about, I think the top 4 or 5 in that session were separated by less than a second. So you definitely are right. They have the pace, and it is very possible they could come out on top in this event.
Yeah, those Volkswagens have looked untouchable. In that warm-up session, they locked out the top 4, and best Subaru was 5th. And
yeah, and we're gonna go ahead and toss it back over here to Josh Mertz. Josh, I want to get your opinion here before we get on your way here for the final event, as it looks like I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm having some issues.
We'll go through the grid really quick. In Sonoma, Robertson, Heikkinen, Silva, Hartley, Okenhaug, Dipple, Cryer, Brokaw, Vanen, and Clog.
Victor, I can confirm you dropped from the session.
Getting ready to go. Green flag in Sonoma. We'll have to do it this way. Into turn 1, Silva battling his teammate. Side by side, Silva with Robertson. They clear Vanen. No, it's a Heikkinen, sorry, in car number 8. Into turn number 2. Silva gets turned by Heikkinen. Saves it in the 63 as we go over the jump. Robertson leads, entering the first lap. Ahead of Silva, side by side, it's Hartley with Heikkinen. Then it's Okenhaug, Dipple, Cryer, Vanen, Brokaw, and Clog. And Robertson needs this advantage to try and battle his teammate. But it's a lot like F1. When Hamilton's ahead of Bottas, it's only 8 points for them, and it's only 3 points for these guys. Robertson has a huge gap to make up.
you've got to say that's a massive heart and mouth moment for Silva. He almost got taken out at the start there, and that's definitely what he doesn't need. He wants to stay as close to Robertson as possible if he just can't outright beat him, and that almost ruined his final there.
Both of the Apex cars, Joker on the first lap of the race. Like we mentioned, apologies for the technical difficulties there. We're trying to bring you the best call we can throughout these issues, trying to get that rebooted in the production truck. Robertson leads ahead of Silva, ahead of Okenhaug. Heikkinen, I believe Okenhaug jokered to get ahead of Heikkinen. Dipple, Vonnen, Cryer, Brokaw, Hartley. Nearly contact with the 903 there. I don't think he jokered, and that's what's hurting him as Josh Klog in the 10th spot.
I think Hartley made a bit of a mistake as well as not jokering. Like he was right behind the top 3 if I remember going into turn 1 at the start, and obviously now he's running 9th. Something must have happened to him.
Over the jump, Okenhaug is going to joker. Remember, you have to take 2 jokers through the final race, and now that puts Okenhaug in the 2nd spot ahead of Silva. Vonnen in 4th, Heikkinen. So the Black Horse car is 4th and 5th. Not a bad day for them. I was going to say good, but not a bad day for them. They're both in the final. Cryer, Brokaw, Dipple, Hartley, Klog. So the DJRX team having their best run so far in NASA Rallycross, with Brokaw sitting in 7th, Klog in 10th. Let's see what happens here with Robertson into the final corner. Over the jump, does not joker. Silva does. Where will this put him in relation to his teammate? Side by side, Silva takes the lead ahead of Robertson.
It looks like Silva let Robertson have the position in turn 1 there. Obviously, I can't... Oh, never mind. Robertson ran wide through turn 1. Is this going to give Okenhaug a chance to go up the inside as well? Oh, that is really close. It looks like Okenhaug had to lift out.
Up the hill, Okenhaug tried to take the fight. Hopefully we're back here on the Automotive Sports Network. But now Silva leads ahead of Robertson with Okenhaug in tow, and the top 3 under a blanket here in Sonoma as we close in on lap number 5. Robertson jokers in the 22. Where will this put Silva in the 63? Very far behind his teammate.
Yeah, this looks like it's going to be a battle for second here between Okenhaug and Silva, but if the rest of the weekend's been anything to judge off of, Silva has the pace as Okenhaug flies off the track in turn 1. Commentator's curse strikes again. I'm so sorry, Magnus. But that's going to solidify second place for Silva, I think.
As I've got our pictures pulled up here on my screen here, we are back, thankfully, and thanks to everyone who was hanging out during that little issue. Hopefully we were able to capture and at least have you envision what it would have been, as Silva, I think, has jokered both times. We take a look at Klog in the 90, or sorry, it's Cryer in the 92, ahead of Brokaw, ahead of Dipple, as these guys not having a good day. That was a weird start, though, for sure, because it was kind of in 2 phases.
Yeah, definitely. And remember how we were speaking about Hartley potentially having a resurgence here? 9th in the final, definitely not what he was looking for, especially after winning that heat by such a margin.
As the lead has not changed, we're having a few technical issues here on the Automotive Sports Network. Hopefully it is not affecting our pictures. Robertson ahead of Silva, ahead of Okenhaug, Heikkinen, Vonnen, Dipple, Brokaw, Cryer, Hartley, and Josh Klog. The gap from Robertson to Silva is 1.8 seconds.
1.8 seconds, but Sindre Silva clawed back 2/10 on his teammate that lap. A 39.444 for Silva compared to a 49. I mean, my apologies. A 39.647 for Robertson.
Ahead of a 39.444 for Silva. A lot of the letter or the number 4 there. 3 laps to go for Jake Robertson. Sindre was a half second slower, so we still focus on our race leader as we go through the field here. Heikkinen, Okenhaug. So Heikkinen in 3rd in car number 8. Okenhaug in the 26. Vonnen in the 7. Dipple in the 34. Hartley in the 1. Brokaw, and then Klog. But it's been another Apex Racing Academy show. We're coming at 2 laps to go.
Yeah, definitely. If there's one thing I've noticed out of the top 3, I'm not sure if this is accurate, but Heikkinen still has both of his jokers left. I don't think he'll be able to bring the fight to Silva and Robertson, but I think since Magnus has taken both of his jokers, he'll definitely be able to solidify that 3rd place here.
It's Heikkinen, jokers in the 8. That puts him in the 3rd spot for now. Robertson, Silva, Heikkinen. That's our podium. Okenhaug, I think, is slowly realizing that he might not have this race win or even a podium.
Speaking of that, the other Black Horse car, Vanen, is closing in on Okenhaug as well, and if the timing is accurate, he has a joker in hand as well, so it might go from bad to worse for Okenhaug. What looked like it could have been a 3rd place finish might end up as 5th at the end here.
White flag for Jake Robertson. The British driver, the young kid, whatever term you want to use. If he can make it through these final couple of corners, he will solidify 6th on the all-time wins list. It's crazy to say that already when you think about it. He's only got 8 wins, and I've got 40, you've got 24, but we don't talk about that. Final couple of corners for Robertson. It's going to be another 1-2 finish for Apex Racing. Normally it'd be boring, but I have to tell you, super exciting. Robertson wins and pips his teammate Silva in Sonoma. Silva has to settle for 2nd, but a 6th consecutive podium finish, and Heikkinen got very close to Silva, but he cannot take the fight to the Norwegian.
Side by side over the line for 4th place, as Vanen got in there right at the line. It's separated by less than, oh my god, that is insanely close. 22 thousandths of a second between 4th and 5th at the line.
It's Okenhaug, Dipple, Hartley, Cryer, Brokaw, Clog, the rest of the running order. As I'll go ahead and I'll step aside, we'll bring Victor Valley back in to conduct those interviews along with Phil Kraus.
Actually, for some reason it looks like... Well, anyways, we apologize for those technical difficulties. Not sure why Robertson, Silva, and Heikkinen are still going out there, still running, but I don't know why they're doing that. But anyways, Phil, an amazing race here, and I believe we'll go ahead and get Oleski Heikkinen up here, and you can go ahead and chat up our 3rd place finisher. See if we have him in here. I don't know if we do.
I don't think he is. So what
Yeah,
we'll
so
do, you can go ahead and have a chat with Sindre Silva.
Yeah,
we'll bring him in.
All right, Phil, you're down there with Sindre Silva.
Howdy, Sindre. You got a copy?
So he's still muted. Josh, your permissions have failed us again.
Josh, you're running out of options.
There you go.
As we've
There we go. Now we've got a copy.
we've moved down to a different channel here, back at the Apex Racing paddock. So Philip, take it away.
Honestly, that must have been a really scary start for you. Obviously, heading into the first corner, you got a bit of a shove up the rear end. I gotta say that was probably a bit of a heart and mouth moment, because that could have potentially dropped you to the end, to the back of the field during that final there. But luckily, you were able to hang on to it and hold on to a 2nd place finish. How'd your race go, in your point of view?
It was for sure tough. The start was just mega. We got a good launch from the start, and yeah, when we come down to T2, we got a little bump, and I actually thought we were gonna roll or something. So I was a little bit nervous, but we managed to keep that 2nd place and just fly off. And yeah, it was a good race.
Yeah, I'd say that was probably the best you could take from that race. Jake just looked like he had the pace over you. He looked a bit unstoppable, to be honest, but you have to be kind of happy just leaving this race. You only lost 3 points to Jake in the points. I think you still have a 19-point lead. So what's your strategy going into the final few races of the season here? Are you just trying to manage the gap, or are you still going for dubs?
So Jake is starting to focusing on the World Championship, and then I'm gonna stay here solo, and we just wanted Jake to have some good scores the previous races and get him up. Of course, he's one of the quickest in every track, so it's hard to catch him, but yeah, he is my teammate, so no, but just try to focus on each race and not lose the momentum that we have going on. Apex Racing team winning every race now, so we will try to continue that streak.
speaking about winning every race, you're 6 for 6 now. Do you think you can do it for the final 4 races, or do you think someone's finally gonna break that streak?
It's gonna be hard. The field is really catching up, and we see that people put down more practice on the track. That we had in advantage. We used to practice a lot, no, it's gonna be tough. But yeah, at least try to win the championship. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's the plan. Our points leader and runner-up finisher, Sindre Silva. You have any questions for him, Victor?
Obviously, as we've mentioned earlier, you know, a scary start, but he seemed to make it through. Of course, another second place finish, another podium. Who do you have to thank for this result?
AP's Racing Academy, John Robertson, Jake Robertson for helping me throughout the season. My own sponsors, Autoprofilering, Alf Ulven, and Shebar Biluppegru.
All right. Thank you so much, man. Congratulations again on your second place. Now I believe we're going to catch up with Oleski Heikkinen here, third place here. So I believe we can bring him down here. Oleski, third place, your first podium, I believe, in NASA. You got a copy?
Yep.
I was gonna say your first podium in NASA. How walk us through it. Tell us what happened. How'd it go for you?
I need my tulkki.
Say, I'm sorry?
Johannes. Can Johannes...
Might be a little bit of a language barrier here, so we'll what we'll do, we will take Jake Robertson for the moment.
Yep.
And then we will try and catch back up with him. So give me just a sec. We'll bring in Jake Robertson, race winner. And then hopefully we can get down that language barrier there and have a chat with our third place finisher. But Victor will bring in a race winner.
Jake, another win. I believe, Josh, you probably know better than I do. Where does that put him on the leaderboard now for all-time wins?
6th in the all-time wins list. He has 8. He broke a 3-way tie with himself, Dylan Smith, and Connor Parisi.
There you go.
Of course, I'm not the one that does the interviews, but that's some pretty good company, Mr. Robertson.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to have that as a stat, especially against guys like Connor Parisi. He's a pretty rapid driver, so it's yeah.
Yeah, an absolute clinic put on by you and Silva once again. This time, a little bit closer a competition with Oleski Heikkinen and Johannes Vaninen. So I guess you guys were probably looking at your mirrors a little bit more than what you're used to here tonight.
It was actually a really fun race, and I said this before we went into the future because of how the fresh track when it came in, everyone was overshooting their lines in the heats. So the worn track line actually came sort of in the middle of the track, so you couldn't really take the inside or the outside. So it kind of promoted really good racing, and it was a lot more difficult than your average race, obviously. And with Alexi, earlier this week, actually got announced into the iRacing RallyCross World Championship. We're obviously looking into our mirrors at him because he's definitely a competitor that we need to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is no shortage of talent, I would say. I believe Sindre mentioned it earlier that you were going to be looking to go part-time for the rest of the season and focus on the World Championship. Any regrets on just not having the chance to win the championship here, or is it just 100% focus on that and there's no regrets obviously for that?
It's definitely going to be a pretty big focus on the World Championships. I'm still, where I can, going to try and run these races, but I'll have zero practice, so it's going to be a case of trying to get up to grips with the track as quick as possible, because I know people like Alexi and Sindre will be rapid still. So I'm going to focus on the World Championship. I don't really have any regrets as much as I'd like to win we still have Sindre in first place, and the team championship is looking secure. So no regrets.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, who do you have to thank for this result, for the win, of course, today?
So SDK Gaming, Simputers, and Apex Academy, and you guys for the broadcast.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for showing up and being here, and congratulations once again on your victory.
Thank you.
All right, and I believe, Phil, you have caught up with Oleski now. I believe that language barrier that we had earlier has been broken down.
Yep, we'll
So
try
we-
to get Alexi in here real quick and get an interview from our third place finisher here tonight.
As we'll bring in Alexi Heikkinen and Johan Vanen, who is going to be our translator for our third place finisher's result. Victor, Phil, it's all yours.
So, Phil, you can take this one away.
First podium of the season for you guys. Pretty impressive drive. I noticed y'all took your jokers really late in the race. Was that just a strategic plan to maybe bring the fight to the top two, or was it just kind of how the race ended up going?
Oliko toi jokeri-strategia suunniteltu vai medikö se vaan kisa vaan sillä, että se meni tuonne lopulle ne jokerit?
Suunniteltu.
Yeah, it was planned all the way through that we're going to take those in the end, so.
Do you think that affected your race at all with traffic? We didn't really catch you on the cameras that much, but notice at the end both of you had a really solid charge through the field. Obviously, Johanna, yourself, you had an amazing photo finish with Magnus at the line there. What was traffic a concern really throughout the race, or was it pretty clean and your jokers just kind of brought you into the fight for the top three at the end?
Well, for myself, I didn't have that much traffic. I think there was some battling going on, but I got through that one quite easily by a small mistake that happened in front. And of course, with the photo finish, I had no idea I was going to be fourth on that one. So that one was on the last meters anyway. So I'll translate to Alexi. Miten, Alexi, oliko sulla tuossa ruuhkaa tuossa kisan aikana vai pääsitkö sä ajan puhtaassa ilmassa?
Oli siinä pikkusen ruuhkaa. Että oikeastaan mulla piti molemmat jokerit jättää niin kuin vikaille, mutta sitten piti ohittaa se yksi siinä välissä, niin piti käyttää se toinen vähän aikaisemmin, että sinänsä vähän meni pieleen.
Yeah, so there was some traffic with Alexi there, but the main idea was to take the jokers on the last two laps, but he needed to take one joker one lap earlier than he was thinking about it, because he used that one to overtake. But for all the other laps, it was quite clean.
Yeah, sounds good. Obviously, this is your best result as a team, as I think this is the first time both of you have been able to show up for a race. Will we be able to see you perhaps in the final four races of the season, or is it going to be a bit more sporadic until the season's over?
Yeah, I think I'll be joining the races, but I don't know about Alexi, since he's focusing on the World Championships. He got the news this week that he's going to be in there, so I'll ask him what he's going to say about it. Mitä mieltä sä oot tuosta 4 viimeisestä kisasta, kun sä olet niissä mukana vai MM-kisoihin tähtäämässä?
Jos sattuu samoja ratoja olla sillä, että lähiaikoina on ehtinyt reenata pikkusen.
Yeah, Alexi says that if the tracks line up with the World Championship tracks, he'll be joining these races also. So
it's good to hear. It was really fun watching y'all race today, and it's always a joy to have y'all here. Obviously, congratulations to you, Alexi, for making the World Championship Series, and best of luck to you in that. And congratulations on the P3, P4 today. Anyone you'd like to thank?
Onko sulla, Alexi, joku, jota sä haluat kiittää tästä?
Volkswagen.
Volkswagen, yeah. and I'll say thank you to the whole team that been supporting us in our races. So we have a nice team going on, and we love what we are doing. So this is nice.
Yep. Thank you for your time and a really solid result today.
All right, so we had a 2-for-1 interview there, Phil. I'm gonna go ahead and bring back in Josh here, and we can wrap this thing up, of course.
I want to first of all mention that I think it's so cool that we had to have a translator. That's the first time in NASA Rallycross history in 8 years that we've had to have a language barrier. Not a bad thing to have. And 2 World Championship drivers on the podium, or soon to be World Championship drivers. And that's something that me as a league owner, admin, that's crazy to think about, because this whole gig was started 8 years ago just for fun in my bedroom on NASCAR 2003. And the fact that 8 years later we've got World Championship caliber drivers, I think that is absolutely amazing. In the fact of the race, I mean, it was Apex 1-2, Black Horse 3-4. It looks like a Noah's Ark kind of race, but honestly, and LRL 5-6. Now that I look at it, so I mean, the results will look like it's a Noah's Ark, but that race really wasn't a snoozer at all. We really didn't know what was going to happen when it came to the results, especially that start. And Phil, I just want to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, obviously, if you just look at the results and you see there's a team 1-2, a team 3-4, and a team 5-6, you'll think, oh, it's just like an F1 race. It's just boring. They just follow the leader around. But if you were able to watch that race, you can tell it wasn't that. It was really exciting all throughout. There were battles. Maybe we didn't catch all of them, but there were battles throughout that whole race, and we had a photo finish at the line for 4th place. Like that, it was an amazing race. Obviously, the results might not show that, but it's one of the better races we've had this season, if I had to say so.
As Victor, you got anything?
Honestly, man, I mean, it was such a great event to be a part of, and to be here with you guys again. You know, I'm not sure what happened with the technical difficulties, which made us miss the first 5 laps of the feature, and I wish we could have brought those to you, because from what I heard from Josh and Phil, this was a really good race and a really good start, and it's an incredible race as we see the photo finish once again between Okenhog and Heikkinen. But I think that's going to go ahead and wrap things up here for us here at Sonoma Raceway. Josh, you can go ahead and finish out right here.
As from all of us here at the Automotive Sports Network, Philip Kraus, Dylan Baadte actually showed up, I think during the warm-up, but I think he was a little intimidated. I love you, buddy. It's okay. Philip Kraus, guest on our show, did very well, my friend. I would like to have you back next week. Victor Valley down on the production truck, even though he pushed the wrong button and we had a little bit of an issue through the final there. Button. But from all of us at the Automotive Sports Network, we're going to finish up our West Coast swing next week at Phoenix Raceway in Avondale, Arizona. And we'll see if the Apex boys can make it another 1-2 finish. Quick fact, the 4 1-2 finishes in a row, I think that's a record that beats me and Phil in 2017 C. But like I said, from all of us here, congratulations to Jake Robertson on his win, Sindre on his 2nd place, and Alexi Heikkinen and Johan Vonnen on the 3-4 result for the Black Horse team. We'll see you in 1 week from Phoenix. But until then, so long, everyone.